Heyo, this is Whiskey Titan checking in with another starter guide for punishing Grey Raven. This video is going to be about who to pick from the S-Rank Selector. For those of you who don't know, the S-Rank Selector is an item you get when you start the game, which lets you choose one of the S ranks from the starting roster. Disclaimer and trivia first though, because it is not 100% guaranteed Global will even get the Selector. The Selector was originally given out at the launch of the Chinese version because the servers had issues then. Since then, both the Taiwan and Japanese version got it, so I am confident Global will also get it. It's sort of a tradition now, I guess. The S-Rank Selector does not get upgraded when new characters are released, so there's no reason for you to save it up for later. Like in my gacha video, I'll say it again, punishing Grey Raven is not very competitive. There are two modes in which players compete via a point-based ranking system for higher rewards. The premium currency though is given for participation, not ranking. Therefore, if you want to, feel free to just pick whatever character appeals to you and have fun. Now, before you pick a character from the Selector, I highly recommend you finish your 40 pulls on the starter banner first. It will take you around 2 to 3 days of playtime to get enough summoning currency to do this, maybe less so at the start of Global with potential launch celebration gifts. If you don't pick your starter S-Rank from this banner first, you run the risk of getting a duplicate. So, if you're like me and being unoptimal keeps nagging at the back of your mind, here's my breakdown of which S-Rank you want to make sure to get at the start of the game. Long story short, if you only want the info, it's the Dark Tank S-Kamui. So, what you'll do is, you'll go to this banner and you'll do your 40 summons. If you get S-Kamui, cool, you can pick any other character from the Selector. If not, like me here, you pick him from the Selector instead. Or, if you do get him, you can double down on him and pick him from the Selector as well to instantly make him double S. Be aware though, that you can bring any S-Rank character to double S as a free-to-play player by scoring highly in the Pain Cage mode. So the dupe pickup from the Selector would only really help if you plan to triple S him. If that is what you want to do, you'll need to pull him 2 more times from the rotating banners, since double S to triple S requires 3 duplicates. And now, we'll move on to the character-to-character breakdown, starting with the S-Rank version of Lee. S-Liv is an excellent physical damage dealer who excels at sustained damage. He has some minor gathering capabilities with his blue skill and can deal damage in a decently sized area. He's also on the easier side to play than other characters because he can fight at range. His only real weaknesses are the small area his ultimate covers and the lacking burst damage he deals. But all around, he's a great example of a DPS class character and would be a really advisable pick from the Selector if there wasn't a giant elephant in the room. And that elephant is Alpha. She arrives in the first patch, which should be about 1.5 months after release. Alpha is a burst-centric character. When building Alpha, you focus solely on her burst, which can reach ludicrous levels. In the 2 competitive modes, her bursts can take out multiple waves in Warzone and kill Pain Cage bosses in mere seconds. To make up for her lack of sustained damage, you pair her with another physical DPS like S-Karenina early on or later Rosetta, and you have the best of both worlds. Well, if Alpha needs someone to deal sustained damage for her, why not pick S-Liv for that role? Well, the reason for that is the aforementioned Rosetta. She's an S-Rank physical tank and the by far best unit to pair with Alpha because she increases Alpha's burst to even more insane levels while supplying the sustained damage she needs. Lee can't amplify Alpha's burst like Rosetta can, so you would end up replacing Lee anyway. Because of that, there's no reason to get him at the start. So, the only reason I cannot recommend picking S-Liv is because Alpha is simply too good and she arrives too soon after the game launches. If you don't want Alpha or you can't get her, Lee is the best alternative as your lead physical DPS. Next up is the physical S-Rank support S-Liv. We're gonna be comparing her to her B-Rank version, which is not a good way to start this, to say the least. So, she can actually deal really good damage for a support unit and is quite hard to kill because of her ability to move while attacking at range. She also heals herself on every 3 orb ping based on her attack power, adding to her survivability. Because of this, she can be a good fallback unit should you find yourself in a tough challenge. Sadly, she suffers greatly in the actual support department. Her QTE heals and grants a shield based on her attack power, which sounds nice at first. The problem is that her healing is rather average, being on par with the aforementioned B rank version she has. The shield is also nothing to write home about because it only lasts for a mere 2 seconds. It will occasionally block damage, but you don't want to QTE for the shield. You want to QTE for the damage, buffs, debuffs, and set effects you can get from them. Additionally, her QTE does not deal damage, limiting her build choices because she can't use sets that debuff when dealing damage. S-Liv is a better support for physical damage teams because she does deal damage on her QTE, and also because she unlocks a passive physical damage increase at SSS rank when off field. In short, S-Liv is an offensive support unit, which is a conflict of interests. There are better units to build for damage and a better physical support version in her B rank once that one hits SSS. Her best feature is her survivability, which can't function as a safety net for players early on, but will become unnecessary as you get better at the game. From what I hear, she's a great unit for some of the later, more challenging co-op missions. I can't confirm this though, as the available co-op missions on the JP server were rather easy, and that is the version I am most familiar with. Next up is the Dark Tank S-Kamui, the character I would recommend you pick up early. Dark teams are very strong in the game, and if you want to compete in Warzone, the timed kill as many as you can mode, the Dark stage is very competitive. S-Kamui deals physical damage in his base form. His entire Dark damage comes from his ultimate, which isn't a single big attack, but has him changed to his Dark mode along with all his skills. And the numbers on his skills when in ult mode are pretty high, comparable to the ultimates of other characters. With proper gear and playstyle, he can stay in the ult mode permanently. S-Kamui likes to build up orbs and cooldowns off field, enter the fray to deal burst damage, then switch out again. The only downside to S-Kamui is that at launch there aren't any other Dark units to pair him with. In the patch Fallen Star, 2 patches after launch, we get the Dark DPS A Watanabe, who is a great partner for S-Kamui. Dark Watanabe takes the role of sustained DPS on field and benefits from the debuffs S-Kamui provides as a tank class, giving S-Kamui in turn time to recover his burst. We're gonna talk about the last 2 characters together because they are very reliant on each other. S-Karenina is the only fire DPS in the game, and S-Nanami the only fire tank. Together with the later releasing fire support A-Sophia, they make up the only fire units currently available in the Chinese version of the game. The fire team is currently considered the weakest team of all elements. S-Karenina is a great sustained DPS unit, but unlike S-Kamui for Dark and Alpha for Physical, S-Nanami doesn't bring big burst numbers to the team, and neither does A-Sophia. The fire team in its current state is played by only having S-Karenina on the field 100% of the time, with S-Nanami and A-Sophia providing support. This doesn't mean fire is bad per se, simply that it hasn't gotten much attention in the form of strong new additions to its lineup. S-Karenina and S-Nanami are launch units, with Sophia arriving early to the game in the 3rd major patch, Eternal Engine. I can't recommend picking up either S-Karenina or S-Nanami by themselves. If you don't want to pick S-Kamui and happen to pull either one of the 2 fire S ranks, you can pick the other and build the fire team. The fire team is a perfectly good team early on in the game, but falls off greatly as strong units are released for other teams, such as Rosetta for Physical. By that point, Physical is strong enough to be the better choice for Warzone's fire stage, in which fire damage is increased. All in all, my priority ranking for the S-Rank Selector would look something like this. Priority 1 is Dark Kamui. He is the most solid pick for the future with what we know about the game right now. Second, the Fire Duo. Only recommended if you can get both. Building mono element teams is the way to go in PGR for stacking elemental buffs and debuffs. Third place, S-Liv. Third place mainly for her potential use in co-op missions and because poor S-Liv will rarely, if ever, see play if you have alpha. Fourth place, S-Liv. Doesn't really have a place in your roster if you have Alpha. Move him up to second or have him share first place with Kamui if you don't want or can't get Alpha. Well, that wraps up my opinion on the starting S-rank units. I really hope it wasn't too harsh on some of the characters. My personal optimal start to PGR Global will be to get S-Kamui and S-Karenina. I have faith the fire team will one day have its time to shine. If you have any additions, corrections, or questions regarding anything said in this video or about PGR in general, please let me know in the comments below. Till next time, laters.